Hey guys, this is just a quick video to give you some extra insight to this week's project. I felt like I could just explain it a little bit better if I did it on video than in person. There's going to be pictures on the blog and printables to help you with this project, but these are just some tips and tricks. So this week we worked on clock faces because I just felt like the overall theme of this last 5 readings was time. I could see the thread of time in every single chapter that I read. I hope that you saw that too, and if not, maybe this drew your attention to it. But the first project, I showed you how to do these clock faces 2 ways, and it's kind of for 2 different levels of craftiness, if you will, and ease really, because this one is a lot easier. So I basically just took mason jar lids. You could take anything round you could find. You can take lids off of cans, you could take anything that you could find. The pattern that I gave you is for the 2 different size lids that you'll see on the blog. But the first thing I did was spray paint them. I just spray painted them a cream color. I took them outside. It does take a couple coats to cover up the ball jar or the whatever writing is on the lid. So be patient in between coats and remember not to get all gloppy and too close. But I spray painted the front and the back. So this first one is really easy. All you have to do is after you spray paint it your base color, and this is where you can change it up and make it any way you want to. You could do black with white on top or pink and purple, whatever your holiday colors are. Just get some some scrapbook stickers, and just make sure you have a font that you like, maybe that goes with whatever style you have going on in your house. And then you just peel and stick your letters, and then that's a good way that you can make sure everything's lined up the way you like it. And then I did 2 coats of just acrylic craft paint from the store over that. I suggest letting this dry before you peel your stickers off. They come off better, but you're probably going to have some scratches in your lettering. It's kind of just what's going to happen. So what I did to combat that is you just take your spray paint and just get really close to a cardboard or a plate or something and just make a puddle of spray paint. And then you kind of have to work quick, but if you use your little bitty brush, which I used in all these projects, this little bitty tipped brush, just dabble in that spray paint and you can touch up your numbers and they come out perfect. So that's pretty much this one in a nutshell. And then this project is a little bit, it's not hard, you're still gonna spray paint. And then I have the printables online for you to trace the Roman numeral clock. Obviously, if you don't like the Roman numerals, you could just freehand or do whatever you want to come up with some other numbers. But I used, again, this really small brush with my black acrylic craft paint, and I just did it. And if you look at mine, you can see there's nothing perfect about my numbers, my handwriting, my painting, but that's kind of why I like them. It's still going back to the perfectly imperfectness of these projects, and you'll find that with everything that I do, because I just don't have a super grand amount of patience. But what I did that I really love, that's going to be an optional step. So once you paint these, you can pretty much call it a day and they can be done. What I did, just to age them a little and make them look a little more rustic, a little more farmhouse, whatever style you want to call it, I used dark wax. So I will put a link in the blog for this. If you don't have any dark wax, it actually comes in a smaller can as well. I've had this can for probably a couple years now. It doesn't take very much. But I just took this, once everything was dry, I just took my little round brush here, and you could probably just use another dry bristle butt brush if you don't want to buy a round brush. And you just barely dab in the dark wax, and you just smear it on, and then you buff it. So, and you can layer this as much as you want. If you want it darker and really aged look, just let it, kind of do 1 coat and then go back and do another. Get it on the edges, and I just feel like this adds a little bit of a finish to it as well. Anytime, if you want to do clear wax, if you don't want to do the aged look, you can do clear wax on it, and just gives it a more or less homemade looking feel to it. So then what I did after that with all of these that I did is I wrote on the back, and I don't think you can see it, but I'll take a picture. But I wrote the verses that stood out to me. I wrote, "This happened at just the time God said it would," and that's from Genesis 21, just to remind me about God's timing. God gave Sarah a baby just when he said he would. The Lord will provide, Genesis 22. I just wrote that, and what I used on the back is just a Sharpie. I just used a Sharpie, and I used a gray one. You could use a black one, whatever you want to. But I just hand wrote it. I don't love my handwriting. I know that a lot of people don't like to handwrite stuff because they don't like their handwriting. But just pretend my kids ever want anything I ever made. Someday my handwriting will be special to somebody, because my grandmothers, I love their handwriting. I love anything that they wrote on, and I would love to have more of it. So when you are feeling like you don't want to put your handwriting on something, don't. Just, it's part of who you are, and someday your people will want that. So this one says, one day I will bring you back to this land. And I think that's just a beautiful promise to remember one day, God's day, whenever that day is. So that's what I did to make these special on the back. But I also just took that nail, a big, kind of a fat nail, and just put this on a piece of wood, something that you don't mind getting messed up, and just hammer the nail into to make the hole in the top. I also just flipped it over and tapped the back of it lightly with the hammer, just because these edges are pointy when the nail goes through, and it kind of makes it a little softer. You want to make sure you use a fat enough nail to get some ribbon through. I used jute, because I use jute on everything. I have my big old jar of jute with a hole in the middle that I just refill all the time. And I just used some plain old grosgrain ribbon. You can, again, make this the colors that go with your tree, or whatever you want to do. I think that these little ornaments could be used in a multitude of ways. They could be put all over a wreath. You could hang them from a doorknob. You could hang them on your tree. You could, I think they'd be cute glued to a picture frame, you know, just on the edge of a picture frame if you want to put your Christmas picture in there. Or you could use them all year round. I mean, I think that they don't necessarily have to be a Christmas ornament. I think it's good. This, maybe next time you see clocks, you're going to think about God's time. God's time. I need to rest in God's time. And that's really what my hope is that these projects will just be an extra layer of helping verses and meaning seep into your heart and into your mind. It's just another memory tool, essentially. Because the more senses we involve in any type of learning, the more that we're likely to remember it. And that's how this works for me. There's no way that I can spend this much time, thought, and effort on a project and not have the meaning behind it ingrained into my mind. And that's just really how I work with all the stuff that I do on the blog that is tied to a lesson or scripture. I just let these projects speak to me, and I let them drive me into the Word. You know, what else can I find out about God's time? What else can I find out about His provision or His abundance? Anything that makes you dig deeper into the Word, I think, is a great thing. So I hope that these projects are doing that for you. So if you have any questions about how to do this project, please let me know. And if you do make it, please share it. I would love to see it. You can email me a picture or put it on Facebook or whatever it is that you want to do. Just let me know what you guys come up with. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.